ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸੱਚ, ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸੱਚ। ਲੰਕ ਲੂਟ ਲਿਆऊं, पलक पेश खाना चलाऊं। नर्द गर्द मैं मिलाऊं, जो माते अभिमान के। रूम नौबत बजाऊं, शाम मोहरा चलाऊं। पातशाही लै कराऊं, तख्त साचे साहिबान के। ना आप लड़ूं, ना फौज लड़ाऊं। पट बीरन सेती बांध मगाऊं। ना छाडूं खलक, ना छाडूं बलक। पर्वत काटूं ईरान खुरासान के। मेरो नाओ गुरु गोबिंद सिंह सोढी राय। अस खलोना सब खलकत, राज साज बांध मगाऊं। गोशे कमान के। हुक्म सत श्री वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। सिक्का जदबर हर दो आलम, फजल सच्चे साहिबस्त। गोबिंद सिंह खुद शहनशाह, तेग नानक वाहे बस्त। देग तेग फतह, नुसरत बेद रंग। याफ्त ज नानक गुरु गोबिंद सिंह। श्री अकाल पुरख जी सहाय, जी दरबारन मैं तेरो दरबारा। दरबारन मैं तेरो दरबारा, सर्ब देवते करे नमस्कारा। जी नानक गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी, पूरन गुर अवतार। जगमग जोत बिराज रही, श्री अबचल नगर मजार। सचखंड के दरबार। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. So, welcome everyone to the Sovereign Sikh Mindset. This is the first time I'm delivering this talk itself. So there will be mistakes along the way. I will be quite nervous on the way, but I appreciate everyone's support, everyone coming along today. This is a project that will be growing over time, so this is the first time we're delivering this talk, and hopefully it'll move on to different universities and different cities over time. Maharaj Sahib ji kripa karan. So, go to the first slide. This talk, this series, the Sikh Sovereignty Series, all possible with the kirpa, with the blessings of Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, the Divine Sovereign. Now, throughout this whole talk series, you'll hear the word sovereignty, sovereign, over and over again, so I apologize for the repetition straight away. So, the next slide. These are the three inspirations, the great inspirations behind this whole talk series. Now, first, as this is in collaboration with Basis Sikhi, there's not much explanation to do. On the left-hand side, by Jagraj Singh Ji, one of the greatest inspirations for anyone that got into Sikhi at a young age in the UK. For me growing up, for most of you growing up, now currently as well, Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji is most likely one of our greatest inspirations in terms of coming to Sikhi, learning about Sikhi. And they were the first one to actually push Sikhi in an academic level into higher academic establishments such as LSE, UCL, where they would do the Vaheguru course. And they would spread the message of Sikhi in a greater level than we see in terms of just in Gurdwara talking to people in Punjabi and so on. The second in the slide is Sriman Sant Baba Jaswant Singh Ji, which is, for me personally, a great inspiration. Now, Baba Jaswant Singh Ji, many people our age might not know them, but if you've had family in the UK for maybe 2 or 3 generations, every single person, not every single person, but somewhere in your family, someone would have had a connection back with Baba Jaswant Singh Ji, whether they had their darshan or whether they did their sangat at some time, spent some time with them. They spent a lot of time doing work and doing the prachar and prasar of Sikhi, doing loads of Amrit Sanchars up and down the country. And currently the work that they're doing is they've started a dental university, which is actually the #1 dental university in Punjab. And 80% of the people that graduate from that university are females. So working towards the prosperity of Punjab on an academic level. And the second thing that they're doing currently, the second project that they're running, is a hospital called the Guru Amar Das Charitable Hospital. Now, what that's actually doing is not only providing free healthcare for those that can't serve it, but providing for the Panth. So anyone who's a sevadar of the Panth, whether that be someone who's going out and doing talks, doing prachar, someone that is a kirtani, a raggi singh, a taddi singh, whatever their seva may be, their large basically, any work for them inside the hospital is done for absolutely free. The only thing that is charged in that hospital is IELTS. So anyone that doesn't want to leave Punjab and go away and not actually work for Punjab and try and make Punjab a better place, that's the only thing that's being charged for. And the third person on this list is someone I believe should be the greatest role model for anyone who's a Sikh student at university trying to do something in terms of Sikh socks, in terms of student events, any of that kind of stuff. And their name is Amar Shahid Bhai Sahib Bhai Amrik Singh Ji. Now, Bhai Amrik Singh Ji was around in the 70s and 80s, and they were the son of Sant Kartar Singh Ji, who was the Jathedar of Damdami Taksal. Now, Bhai Amrik Singh Ji's main role was that they were the president of the All India Sikh Students Federation. Now, what that was is a collection, so like we have BOSS in the UK, the British Organisation of Sikh Students, the All India Sikh Students Federation was basically an organisation that kept all of the Sikh societies around India together in one organisation. And what Bhai Sahib would do is they'd go around to all of these universities and they'd do Amrit Prachar, they tell them about the importance of Amrit, the importance of Sikhi. And throughout the 80s, when the Kardkul Sangharsh started, when the fight for Sikh independence and Sikh sovereignty against the tyrannical rulers at the time, Bhai Sahib's Prachar was at the forefront of that. As many people that weren't even Gursikh, so they may have had cut hair, they may have been drinking, smoking at the time, but Bhai Sahib didn't discriminate against any of them. And over time, when they saw the effects of Bhai Sahib's Prachar and what they were talking about in terms of the political and economic state of Punjab, and they saw what they were saying was actually true, they themselves started coming to Gursikhi and actually took the fight on for the sovereignty of Punjab and for the freedom of Punjab against the tyrannical rulers that were there. So now I'll do a personal introduction. A lot of you here already know me quite personally. Some of you may not. So the way we're going to do this is we'll start off with who I am, and then we'll go to who I think I am. So who I actually am is just this guy. I'm an angry little Man United fan, and that's all I really actually care about. Just always pissed off about Man United, as we lost yesterday to Tottenham, probably going to get relegated this season. This is who I actually am. Now we'll go to who I think I am, which is this guy, Harvey Specter. Don't know me, I'm studying law right now. So yeah, I think I'm a smart guy who's got it all figured out and I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm actually just an angry little Man United fan who knows nothing else in the world. And as we're going through this talk, I want this to be like a very grounded thing, in the sense that I might be delivering this talk, but that's just because I've got the gift of the gab, I'm able to speak. I'm actually trying to earn this as well as spread this out to everyone, and hopefully everyone else can come along and come in this journey with us and work towards the Sovereign Sikh mindset. It's not something that I've achieved just yet, but it's something I'm able to talk about, and hopefully everyone can achieve this together, because we need to work together towards this. Now, introduction to the talk series, just a basic overall. So today is the Sovereign Sikh mindset. So what we're going over is, what is the Sovereign Sikh mindset? Where does this come from? And how do we build this? How do we build this mindset of sovereignty as per Sikhi and as per Gurbani? Next week, we'll be going over how this mindset was put into practice. So the sovereignty that's given to us by Guru Sahib and through Gurbani, how was that put into practice in the past? Whether that be through Banda Singh Bahadur and Baba Binod Singh Ji in the first ever Khalsa Raj, whether that be through the Sikh Missile period, when there were loads of different little groups in Punjab, and then Maharaj Ranjit Singh Ji, who brought all these groups together and created the Khalsa Raj, which actually had about 25 to 30% of the world's GDP just inside Punjab alone. So that is a stat that always stands out for me. And going from a place where 30% of the world's GDP was in that one place of Punjab, the third week we'll be going over how was that lost? Where did that go to, and what's happened to that Punjab now? Those Sikhs that were once so sovereign, who were dependent on themselves, they didn't have to turn to anyone else. What's happened to that whole nation now? What's happened to those people now? And what's happened to Punjab? So that's week 3. And then week 4 was us going over how to reclaim that sovereignty. So not just in a state of mindset, but physically as well. So on a political and economic scale. Now, just some key words for today. Most of you would have seen these words before if you read Gurbani, if you listen to any katha, or just in normal day-to-day Punjabi, you would have heard these words before. So you got Daya, which means compassion, Dharam, which means righteousness or justice, Khalsa. There's many meanings to the word Khalsa. We can go over. That could be an entire 4, 5, 6 weeks course in itself. But just for today, what we're looking at in terms of the word Khalsa is the army of Akal Purkh, so the army of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Gurbani being the word of the Guru, so from all three Granths, by Nand Lal Ji, by Gurdas Ji, all the word of the Guru from Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Dasam, Sarblo, that is what makes up Gurbani. The word Halimi, so it's not Halumi for anyone that might have got confused. Halimi means humble and benevolent. Now, you got the word Halimi there, and the next word is Raj, which is actually a very common phrase. So if you're looking at any talk regarding Sikh sovereignty, Sikh power, the Khalsa Raj, you will hear this word come up a lot, Halimi Raj. So what Halimi Raj actually means, you got those two put together, the humble rulership, the benevolent rulership that looks out for the well-being of everyone. So Raj means rulership or kingship, and then Maharaj means the great king. So these are the main words that we're going over. Kaljug, of course, a lot of us might have heard of before, is the age of darkness. So within the Hindu tradition, and then also within the Sikh tradition, there's 4 ages of time, which is Satjug, Treta, Dwapar, and Kaljug. And we're currently in Kaljug, which is the 4th age of time, which is the dark age. So where it started with complete truth and everyone being on a scale where they're trying to connect with Vaheguru and being the best people possible, we're now in the absolute opposite of that in this day and age. And then sovereignty, which is the only English word up there. So I use the Oxford definition. Anyone that studies philosophy would know philosophy is all about definition. So in terms of anything to do with dharam or spirituality, you have to give good definitions. And the Oxford definition of sovereignty, since it's such an integral part of this talk series, is complete authority over oneself or others. So having complete authority over yourself, not having anyone else control you, but being able to control yourself. Now, the Sovereign Sikh Mindset. So throughout today, what we're going to aim to do is we'll aim to dive in and understand how Guru Sahib Ji gives us the recipe to sovereignty, to true sovereignty. Now, that phrase, true sovereignty, we'll go further into that. We'll dive further into that later. And then, but it also links to this second point of how the current political systems that we see in the world today, whether it's that country that we live in, whether it's different countries around the world, America, Russia, China, wherever it is, how those political systems don't adequately uphold the duties of sovereignty. And just going back to the first point, it says through Gurbani. So understanding the recipe of true sovereignty through Gurbani. So the whole talk that we're doing today, the whole thing that we're going through, will all be based through the lens of Gurbani. And the reason why that is we'll go over that later as well. For a Sikh, the main source of Sikhi, the main source of anything to do with our faith, our way of life, is Gurbani. Because our Guru is currently through the form of Gurbani, being Guru Granth Sahib Ji in all 3 forms, in Dasam, Sarblo as well. And without Gurbani, we're not able to navigate our way through Sikhi. Sikhi is Gurbani, Gurbani is Sikhi, there is no other way about it. And within Gurbani, within Sri Japji Sahib, Maharaj gives us the first lesson to sovereignty. And some people may question, and we'll go over this later as well, they may say, how does Japji Sahib, so people think about Japji Sahib as being a completely spiritual thing, which it is. It's the greatest form of spirituality in the world. There's nothing greater than Sri Japji Sahib. But how did that give you the lens of sovereignty? How does that go into a political system, into the form of political thinking? The 2 words that we went over at the beginning, Daya and Dharam. Now, everyone here remembers what those 2 words mean, right? So Daya meaning compassion and Dharam meaning righteousness. Now, there's a picture here, if everyone can see it clearly. Can I ask, does anyone know what this picture represents? Anyone else read Japji? Yeah, go on, hold it up. Yep. Okay, so he just gave him the whole pankti, ruined my next slide. But so what this picture represents, well, it's from the British Museum, painted in the 1720s in India, was stolen from India by the British, brought to the UK and chucked in one of the museums, like everything else that's in the British museums today. What this actually represents is it's a bull holding up the earth. So within the Hindu tradition, within the Sanatan tradition, they believe that there's a bull or a cow that holds up the earth and it keeps the earth in place. Now, what is this bull? The bull is a bull of righteousness. So there's a bull that represents righteousness, it represents justice, and it holds the world in its place. But within Gurbani, Maharaj tells us that this bull of righteousness that holds the world in its place, it's actually born of Daya. So righteousness and justice is the son of Daya. It's the son of compassion. There is no righteousness, there is no justice in this world without compassion and without love. And that's the first lesson of Rajniti. That's the first lesson of politics that Guru Sahib teaches us in Gurbani. They tell us that there is no righteousness in this world. There's no way you can act as a Gursikh in this world without having Daya first, without having compassion. So as it says, you can see on the board, so the mythical bull is Dharma, which is the son of compassion. And this is what holds the world in its place. So the son of compassion, the son of Daya, being righteousness, is what holds this world in this place. Now, that's not saying from a Sikh perspective we think that there's an actual bull holding the world up. No, that's not what we think. It's just a metaphor. It's a way to think about the way this world works. Now, we've gone over what righteousness is. We've gone over what Daya is. But who actually has the job? Who actually upholds this duty? Or who assumes this duty to hold up righteousness in today's world? We should ask that question out. So if there's a group of people, if there's anyone in this world who actually assumes the duty of upholding righteousness and upholding justice in this world, who do you think it is? Anyone? It's a more simple answer than you think. That's a bit too, got a bit too religious there. It's on a very basic level. It's not something too deep to think about. Police? Possibly. There you go. This guy and this guy. So these are apparently the people that assume the duty or have the duty of upholding righteousness in the world. So if anyone gets the reference, 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying, they had a song called Many Men, and someone tried killing Trump recently, so I thought that was kind of funny. And then you got Boris with his samosa and gulab jamuna. So these are the people, the politicians, the rulers of this world, the rulers of the land, the kings, the politicians that are in control, a so-called sovereign in this world. So the duty of righteousness, the duty of righteousness is apparently upheld in this world by the kings and by the politicians, by the prime ministers, by the governments who are in control of the nation states all around the world. And in the UK, if anyone studies politics, if anyone studies law, we know that there's a system called parliamentary sovereignty. Now, what that means is that the parliament, where before in the UK and in many countries around the world, that the monarch of that country, so the king, the kingship, the family of rulers in that country would have been who ran the country. But in the 1900s, there seemed to be a big turn around the world, and parliaments, governments came into power. So instead of having monarchies, instead of having a family or a single individual who's in charge of a nation state, in charge of a country, or in charge of an empire, it turned to being a government, a group of people who are elected, or maybe not elected if you're going into Russia or China or something like that, but elect most often in a democratic sense, elected to control the world or control the country that they're in. Now, like in the UK, the parliament has that duty to uphold sovereignty. Well, it has its own sovereignty, but it has the duty to uphold justice. It has the duty to uphold righteousness. As anything that goes on in the UK, so in terms of laws, in terms of legislation, the parliament is what puts that through. The House of Commons is what confirms every single legislation in this country. But the question stands, do the politicians, do the monarchs of this country, of any country around the world, of any empire around the world, any form of rulership around the world, do they actually uphold their duty of righteousness? Do they live up to this completely? Now, if we go to the next slide, got two pictures here. What do we think these represent? It's quite straightforward. Anyone? Put the hand up. Guys, try to be a bit interactive. Let's get talking. It's pretty straightforward, no? Good one, go on. Jatka? No. Her dove knows all about that. You're gone. Butchering, yeah. So you got a butcher there. And on the right-hand side, anyone? It's very straightforward. It's just a butcher's knife, yeah? So it's a butcher's knife cutting through a slab of meat. Now, what do these represent in a political sense? And what what is the connection here back to Gurbani? What is the connection here back to Sikhi? We go to Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj and we read this in Asa Divar. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is telling us, Kal Kati Raje Ka Sai Taram Pankh Kar Ud Reha. So, Kal, meaning Kal Jog, what we went over earlier, this dark age that we're living in, Kal is that Kati. So the butcher's knife that we saw before, Kal Jog, the dark age that we're living in, is that knife. And the Raje are the Kasai. So the butchers are the rulers of this world. So the politicians, the governments, they are the butchers of this world. And what Maharaj is saying is Taram Pankh Kar Ud Reha. So the righteousness of this world, the bull of righteousness, is actually grown, he's grown wings and he's flown away. There is no righteousness left in this world anymore. And if we look into our normal daily lives, we can see how this works. So the main way we can understand this is, if we go into Sakya Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, many of us may have heard this before. So the thing called Kaljug, the dark age, he took on a form. And that form was a very scary looking person. And he came before Guru Nanak Dev Ji, we read this in our history. He came before Guru Nanak Dev Ji and he was holding two things. In one hand he was holding his mouth and his tongue. And the second hand he was holding his ling, being his sexual reproductive organs. Now, what does that represent? He's holding his reproductive organs in one hand and his mouth in the other. That represents that within Kaljug, what Kaljug is going to do, the way he controls the world, the way he controls all the politicians, and puts his ideas forward and gets everyone to stray away from Akal Purakh and stray away from the truth, stray away from justice and go into the evil of this world, is one, through your calm, so through your desires, through your lust. So let's say if we go on our phones, let's say if you open or made a brand new Instagram page today, and you're just scrolling on your reels, you're most likely going to get a video, an inappropriate of a video of someone dancing, whether that's a female or a male. You're going to get something like that before you get anything in terms of truth, in terms of dharam, in terms of God, whether that be Jesus, Muhammad, whatever it is. You're most likely going to get something that's straying you away from dharam, from righteousness, from religion, then you are going to get something that does. Now, that's just a very simple example. Just through the algorithms of our phones, of our social media, the way that this is pushed forward. Now, what Maharaj is saying here is that the Raje, the Kasai, they use Kaljug. They use this dark world. They use the five thieves that we see in Gurbani. The Kam, Krodh, the Lobh, Mohankar. The desires that we have, the lustful desires that we have. Our anger, our attachment, our greed, our pride, our hankar, our ego. They use this as a tool to keep control over the world. So they use Kaljug in that way. And when they're doing this, when the governments are using all of our lust and they're using our anger, they're using our attachments. For example, like I showed at the beginning, I'm a very devout Man United fan. And that's something I'm very attached to. Oftentimes there'll be times where we go to programs and a United match will be happening. So I'm sitting there in the middle of the Kirtan, but I'm watching the United match on my phone. Now, that is a direct effect of what's happening here. We're so attached to things that are material in this world, we're so attached to things that don't matter in this world, that we're straying away from the truth. And in all of that process, straying away from the truth, what Guru Sahib says is, Kood Amavis, Sach Chandrama. So that this dark night of falsehood, this darkness of falsehood has strayed the whole world. Even when we're trying to get closer to the truth, it's blocking the truth out. And the truth is not visible anywhere. So like I gave that example of our phone. Let's say we made a new Instagram account and we're scrolling through. You're most likely going to see something lustful before you're going to see something about truth and something about mental development. That is the form of darkness. Where we're pushed forward forms of darkness, we're pushed forward forms of evil before we're seeing anything righteous. However, in all of this darkness, there was a light that appeared to save us. There's a light that came to this world to save us from this darkness. Now, sorry if it's too many pankti, too much Gurbani. I know you didn't come here for Katha today, but we have to go through Gurbani to understand what the Sikh lens is. Because without Gurbani, there is no Sikhi. And without Sikhi, well, there is nothing for me anyway. So what Guru Sahib is saying, what Bhai Gurdas Ji is saying here, is in all this darkness, when the world was crying out, so for example, at the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, just before Guru Nanak Dev Ji, well, at the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the world was crying out. You had loads of different empires at war with each other. You had crusades that were happening. You had the Afghan and you had the Mughal dynasty that was raiding India. And people were being killed left, right and center. There's all just war all over the world, bloodshed all over the world. And the world was crying out for a savior. And Akal Purukh heard this cry, the Vaheguru, the Creator. Now, when I'm speaking today, it might seem I'm speaking from a very Sikh lens. However, today I'm not trying to convince anyone to come into Sikhi, but rather I'm talking to everyone from the aspect that all of you are already believing in Sikhi, you already believe in Guru Sahib, and then we're trying to spread forward the message of Sikh sovereignty. So I'm not going to be trying to convince anyone to come into Sikhi today. So if it does come across like that, just clearing that out there. So Guru Sahib's come into this world, Guru Nanak Dev Ji's come into this world to clear out all this darkness of Kaljug, this steering us away from the 5 threes, teaching us to stay away from the Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, and teaching us the way to do that. And this light comes, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and they come to take us away from all this darkness. And what Guru Nanak Dev Ji does is they come to this world and they spread the message of righteousness. They spread the message of Dharma. One example of how they do that, the Babur, the emperor of the Mughal Empire, he's going around, he's killing people just because they're not converting to Islam. He's killing people so that he can take control of India indiscriminately. He doesn't care about what's going on. He doesn't care about who's being killed, men, women, children, whether they're married, whether they're pregnant. He doesn't care at all. He's killing because he wants to control everything. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji, someone who people think is a sage, they think he's just a saint. They think he just talks about God all day and that's all he does, not knowing that he was God himself. Guru Nanak Dev Ji goes in front of this man named Babur and he says, "You're a Jabbar." He says, "You're a monster." Now, often we look at Guru Nanak Dev Ji as just a saintly figure, just this religious figure. But we don't see how much of a great sovereign, how much of a political sovereign, how political and how rebellious Guru Sahib was. The revolution that they started. Guru Sahib they come to this world as the form of righteousness, and they have the duty of righteousness. I forgot to put it on that screen, I had it on my laptop. So Guru Sahib comes and they take upon this duty of righteousness, they spread righteousness in this world. They fight against the injustice, they fight against the emperors that are there in the world. They go to Rome. Many people might not know this. Guru Sahib walks all the way to Rome, they walk to the Vatican, and they have a debate with the Pope about freeing black people, Africans who were enslaved inside the Vatican. Now Guru Sahib goes there and they go to all these places and they they do everything to get rid of this darkness. And then they give this role, they give this duty of righteousness to their children. Being the Singhs, the Singhaniya, all of us today, they give us this duty of righteousness. They give this duty of righteousness, of upholding righteousness and fighting against injustice to the Khalsa Panth. Now, we'll go over, it's not really showing properly there, but this is the lineage of sovereignty. So, what we've got here is pictures, frescoes in their original form from either the Baba Atal Rai Gurdwara or from Taran Taran Sahib. Now, these are couple 100-year-old paintings of Guru Sahib. So often we think that we don't have actual artifacts, we think we don't have actual paintings of Guru Sahib. But in fact, we are actually one of the only religions to have the actual artifacts that belong to our Peer Pagambar, to the people that started our faith. So we have Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Shastar, we have their weapons, we have Guru Nanak Sahib Ji's personal belongings, their clothes. We even have the case, so the case that was combed out, the hair that was combed out of the head of the Guru Sahiban. We have all of that still here today. And these are some of the examples of that. So the actual paintings of Guru Sahib that was contemporary paintings. And it goes over, so the lineage of sovereignty. Now, Guru Nanak Dev Ji comes to this world and they have the duty of righteousness. And they are the complete sovereign. They take on the form of true sovereignty, fighting against injustice. And this duty of sovereignty goes through 10 different forms. So it goes to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and then each number is portrayed there. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Angad Dev Ji, Guru Amar Das Ji, Guru Ram Das Ji, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, Guru Har Gobind Sahib, who takes up arms to actually not just talk against and not just speak against this injustice that was going on at the time, but actually fight against it. So not just speaking, but putting that justice into action and taking justice. Then you've got Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, Guru Har Krishan Sahib Ji, Guru Teg Bahadur Ji, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And then at the bottom, we've got two pictures there. The current duty of sovereignty lies upon these two. What we have here is Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the 11th Guru. And what we have here is the 12th Guru, being the Guru Khalsa Panth. Now, oftentimes, some people might say we have 10 Gurus, some people might say we have 11. But in actual fact, we have 12. The 12 Gurus, all displayed on the screen here, with the 11th being Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and the 12th being the Khalsa Panth, which is all of us. Now, what Guru Sahib has done is they've given this duty of sovereignty, they've passed it down through 12 different forms. If we look at society through any form of time, society has always had to take a long time to change. There has to be something that is prevalent through a long period of time for society to change. So in that same way, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they've come and they brought this message. And for about 250 years, the Guru was here in a physical form, in a bodily form. From Guru Nanak Dev Ji, from when Guru Nanak Dev Ji came into this world, to when Guru Gobind Singh Ji left this world in 1708, in their physical form. And in those 200 years, society was transformed in Punjab. The way that Punjab worked, the way everything was going in Punjab, that Gur Amavis, that darkness that was there in Punjab, through the Guru's work, that darkness was dispelled. They brought forward the message of truth. They brought forward the message of Sikhi. And at the end, they've bestowed this duty of righteousness, of fighting against injustice, to the Khalsa Panth, to all of us here today. And in what way do they give us this sovereignty? In what way do they give us this duty of righteousness? They give us this duty of upholding righteousness. So like we said earlier, for a Sikh, the main source of information is always Gurbani. Now, in Gurbani, in Sri Japji Sahib, like we said earlier, people wouldn't put Khalsa Raj and Japji Sahib in the same equation. But in actual fact, they go absolutely hand in hand. And in Sri Japji Sahib, Maharaj gives us two examples of Raj, of how a Sikh does Raj, of how a Sikh is sovereign, and how a Sikh controls the world, or how a Sikh controls their mind. Maharaj gives us two examples. They say the man and the jag. So the man being your mind, and the jag being the world. So we've seen this before. We've all read Japji Sahib. Maharaj tells us, man jeeta, jag jeet. So we conquer our mind, we conquer the world. Now, it's quite a cliche thing, even nowadays. We'll say if you put your mind to something, you can complete it. Right? If you focus on anything, you can get it done. But this isn't just putting your mind to something. This is conquering your mind. So even when we're trying to achieve something, let's say you're trying to get a good grade on an essay, on an exam. You can control your mind for a little while. You'll tell your mind, no, I need to revise, and I can't go out, I can't mess around, I need to revise, I need to spend my time on this. But that's not actually conquering your mind. Because for a short amount of time, you'll be in control of your mind, you'll be disciplined, and you know, I need to do this, I need to do this. I need to revise, I need to spend my time properly, I need to go to sleep on time, I can't be wasting time. But as soon as that's gone, you lose that discipline. As soon as your exam's done, you don't care about that anymore, and you just go back to the way of your life. But what Maharaj is talking about here is conquering your mind. Completely, jeeta. Jeet in Punjabi, as we all know, jit means victory. Having victory over your mind, winning over your mind, completely controlling it and conquering it. But that's a very confusing thing to do. You know, we could say conquer the mind, we could say take over your mind, control everything, control each and every thought. You could say that very easily. But how do you actually do that? It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And if we start pondering about it ourselves, it'll be incredibly difficult for us to understand how to actually control the mind if we're just sitting here and let's say we did a brainstorm and think about how to control the mind in every moment. The way Guru Sahib tells us to do this is they say to surrender your mind. So to not actually try to control it yourself, to conquer your mind yourself, but to surrender it for your mind to be conquered. And the second thing there is once we surrendered our mind, to obtain Naam. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, who are we surrendering our mind to? We're surrendering our mind to Guru Sahib. Now, like I said, I'm talking to you guys as everyone here believes in Sikhi, they believe in Guru Sahib. And that is my perspective throughout this whole entire talk. So what Guru Sahib is telling us as Sikh is that the way we conquer our mind is about surrendering our mind to Guru Sahib and letting Guru Sahib conquer our mind. Let Guru Sahib take over our mind. So what does Guru Sahib say? This is in Anand Sahib. So anyone who reads Panjabaniya, they would read this every day. Maharaj says, Tan man tan sab samp Gur ko. So to give your mind, to give your body and all your wealth, everything that we think we own, to give it all to the Guru and to obey the hukam of the Guru, to obey the order of the Guru. Now, this is allowing the Guru to conquer your mind. And we'll go over how this is done later on. And when we do this, when we surrender our mind to the Guru and we let the Guru take over our mind, what happens in that moment is hukam maneho Guru kera gavo sachi bani. The Guru gives us a hukam. The Guru gives us the order. And what is that order? It's gavo sachi bani. To sing the praises, to sing the naam, to sing the name of the Guru. And you may ask, why does the Guru give us this? Why does the Guru give us naam? Why does he tell us to sing his praises? This is the reason. So, what Guru Sahib tells us is Gurbani is Mere man laha le kar jahe, Gurmukh naam salahiya, Homa nivri pahe. So, what is Maharaj actually saying in this Shabad? Now, if we read the translations, Maharaj is saying kar jahe. So, does anyone know what home they're talking about here? When they say kar jahe, everyone knows what home means, what kar means. But what home is Guru Sahib talking about in this Pankti? Has anyone got an idea? Any clue? No?
Back to Guru Sahib's embrace. Back to Guru Sahib's goal.
Yeah. So, what Guru Sahib is telling us, oh yeah, you guys can all use your mics by the way if you want to answer a question. Just hold the button down and it lets you answer from there. So what Guru Sahib is talking about is the forever home. It's not the home that we're going to go back home after this talk and go to sleep, go to your room and go to sleep. But they're talking about the home of the soul. So within Sikhi, we believe that when someone lives a life as a Gurmukh, when someone lives life as a Gursikh, they return back to Sachkhand, they return back to Guru Sahib. But to get there, we have to earn this profit. And that's what Guru Sahib is talking about, this Pankti. They say, Mere man laha le. So earn this profit. But what is this profit that Guru Sahib is talking about? It's the profit of Naam. It's the currency of Naam. So if I just read off the board here, Maharaj is saying us to earn the true profit of the name of Akal Purkh. When we're going home, don't go home empty-handed. Don't go through death empty-handed. Don't leave this world empty-handed. Go with profit. Earn something in this world and go back having earned something. Go back to your Guru having earned something. And that is a profit of Naam Tan. So the true profit, the profit of the name, the currency of the Lord's name. And why do we have to earn this? We'll ask that question again. That Guru Sahib is telling us, yeah, Jap Naam, earn the profit of the Lord's name, Laha le. But why are they saying this to us? The reason why is in the next Pankti, they say, Gurmukh Naam Salahiya, Homa Nivri Pahe. They're saying, that when we jap naam, when we take on the name of the Guru, when we listen to the Guru's words, when we sing the praises of the Guru, homa nivri pahe, it destroys our ego. It destroys our homa. So what the word homa actually means is made up of two different words. Hom meaning yourself, ma. And then hom meaning I, and ma meaning me. So I and me. And what Guru Sahib is telling us is when we take on the name of Akal Purkh, when we jap the name, when we call the name, when we sing the praises of Vaheguru, when we sing the name of Vaheguru, it destroys our ego. And how does this happen? It's because let's say we're all sitting here and we're actually thinking about God. Yeah, we're thinking about the Creator. We're thinking about the Creator who's made everything in this entire world. From the ants, to the trees, to the elephants, to the entire galaxy. Everything that's in existence. Everyone's probably seen that video on Instagram where they zoom out of the earth and it carries on zooming out and zooms out and goes out the Milky Way and then out of the every galaxy that we see, and there's just millions and millions of galaxies everywhere. That Creator who's made all of that, who's made everything in existence, when we're jumping the name of that Creator, when we're singing His praises, we understand how small we actually are, how minute we actually are, how much we actually don't matter in this world. Because we're seeing the person that's created everything and then just us in our tiny little bubble. So when you're connecting with something so great, it humbles you. It breaks you down and it makes you realize how small you actually are compared to that creator, the creator of the heavens and the earth from an Abrahamic perspective, the creator of everything. Now, like we said, Naam Tan, the prophet of the name. In this world, when we look at people that have loads of money, we look at millionaires, look at billionaires. Yeah, money helps them. So they'll have a good job, they'll have a good life, they'll have nice and fancy cars, they'll have a nice house. And from a materialistic perspective, they'll be very happy in this world. But at the same time, that money can break them down. If you look at many millionaires, a lot of them are very lonely. They spend all their time chasing money, chasing Maya, chasing this illusion, and they lose track of everything else. So in the same way that it builds them up, it breaks them down. Other examples are where they will earn so much money and they will just become addicted to money. That's all they spend their time doing, and they end up just blowing themselves out. Whether that be through starting gambling or starting anything else like that. They break themselves down as well as they're building themselves up. And in the same way, money in this world has positive and negative effects. The Naam Tan builds you up, but it also breaks you down. The prophet of the name builds you up and breaks you down at the same time. And like we went over, it builds you up in terms of, it helps you spiritually. You grow spiritually. You connect with the Akal Purkh Waheguru. You connect with what's greater than us and you understand your greater purpose. You understand what's actually created this world and you become one with that creator. But at the same time, it destroys you. It breaks you down by destroying your ego, like we went over before. So the Naam Tan does the same thing as does a very similar thing as the money in this world. It builds you up and breaks you down, but in a very different way. Both sides are positive. It builds you up spiritually and it destroys your ego. And when one's ego is destroyed, when we take on Naam, we take on the Updesh of Akal Purkh, the Updesh of Guru Sahib, the teachings of Guru Sahib, and we destroy our ego, we become the true sovereigns. Now the word true sovereigns here is highlighted, and we'll go over why. How does taking on Naam make you sovereign? What is sovereign about Naam, or how does that make you sovereign? Now within the mindset of the Guru, within the mindset of the Khalsa, true sovereignty, true leadership, true kingship, it's not defined by what you do for yourself. Now, if we look at governments today, in today's day and age, every government is after what they can do for themselves. How do they make their own country prosper? How do they make themselves prosper? You see loads of members of parliament getting caught out for fraud. David Cameron hiding all of his money down in Cuba or somewhere down in South America. They're not caring about the people that they're in charge of. What they actually care about is themselves, their own status, their own power. But within the mindset of the Guru, true power, true Raj, true leadership isn't about what you do for yourself. It's not about what you do for your own country, but it's about what you do for everyone. It's about what you do for the entire world. This is what we call Halim Miraj. This is where the concept of Sarbata Pala becomes a political concept. Now, Halim Miraj, like we said earlier, it means the benevolent rulership, the humble rulership. The rulership that works for the betterment of all, for the well-being of all. So by destroying your ego, when we jap Naam, we realize the greatness of Akal Purkh, and it destroys our ego. We then see that we should treat the entirety of creation, we should work towards its betterment. We should treat it all as equal. That's where the concept of equality comes in Sikhi. And then that teaches us, the concept of Halim Miraj, it teaches us to work towards Sarbata Pala, work towards the betterment of all. Now here we've got a picture of Baba Banda Singh Bahadur. Now many of us may have seen them in history. We may have read books about them, we've probably seen the Char Sahibzade movie. But a big fact that many people don't know is that one of the greatest supporters of Banda Singh Bahadur at that time in Punjab were the Jats, were the farmers. Now, in today's day, Jats are seen as the highest caste. They're seen as the group of people in Punjab within the caste system that are the highest. They're bigger than all. But that wasn't always the case. At that time, Jats in the 1700s were seen as a very low thing. Being a farmer was a very low profession, was a very, very low way of life. But at that time, the system in Mughal India was that even if you worked on the land, even if you were the one growing the crops, cutting the crops, and then taking them to the markets to be sold, you didn't actually own that land. The Sarkar owned the land, the Mughal Empire owned that land. Your local governor is who owned the land. But Banda Singh Bahadur came and changed all of that. When he came into power, working towards the betterment of everyone that was there in the land, anyone who sowed the seed, anyone who cut the crop is who was in charge of that land. He was a person who controlled his own space. He controlled his own destiny. He controlled his own income. His income wasn't going to the government, and they weren't in control of that land. They were in control of themselves. Like imagine, let's imagine you yourselves are farming, you're cutting the crops, you're doing all the hard work, but everything for that, you don't even own what you're doing yourself. Imagine you didn't even own your own job. Imagine living your whole life having a job contracted to someone else, not actually physically being in charge of what you're doing yourself. And Banda Singh Bahadur comes and changes all of that. Now, if we look at the Mughal rulership, if we look at current rulership, the way that politicians and governments run this world, we look at this world and we see everyone is suffering. We see suffering all over the place. We see genocides, we see massacres, we see mass hunger all over the place. Whether we look at Palestine, the genocide going on in Gaza, in Palestine, if we look at Congo, the genocide going on in Africa, in Congo, in Sudan, the wars that have been going on in Sudan for so long, these are things that we don't even know about because they're so hidden. We don't see the evil that's going on in this world by the people that are in power because we're so entrapped by our daily lives. We're so entrapped by our algorithms. We're so entrapped by TikTok. We're swiping. Dopamine hits after dopamine hits, and we don't see what's actually going on in this world. We're constantly happy. Now, what is the point of power? What is the point of sovereignty if the people in your power, in your Raj are suffering? That is a question we're asking. Now, this is quite a funny letter here. We go into Sikh history, we go into the period after Guru Gobind Singh, after Banda Singh Bahadur. So, in the 1700s, just a quick historical way to put this in perspective. So, in the early 1700s, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, after the Battle of Chamkaur, most of us would have heard of that, they moved down to Hazur Sahib. They go to the south of India, and then they send Banda Singh Bahadur to take over Punjab and turn Punjab into a better place. Banda Singh Bahadur, he takes over Punjab for a short amount of time. But then that Raj is dissolved as well. The Mughals come back into power. And after that, there is a period where Sikhs are being hunted down and slaughtered. There are mercenaries coming from all over the Muslim world. So they're coming from Dagestan, from southern Russia, they're coming from Iraq, from Eastern Europe, from North Africa. If you read into Panth Prakash, which is one of the historical texts of the Khalsa, it talks about how even large, dark men with large noses were coming to fight against the Sikhs. Now what that represents is North Africans in that sense. So people from all over the Muslim world, from all over the Muslim empire, are coming to Punjab to hunt Sikhs. And during that time, there is a moment where two Mughals are traveling through a jungle and they're talking. There's a governor and there's his servant. And they're talking between each other. And what they say to each other is, we've finished all the Sikhs. We've killed them all off. We've brought all of our people from everywhere and we've just annihilated them. There's no Sikhs left. But at that same moment, there were two Singhs standing in that jungle and they were hiding. They saw these two Mughals and they hid behind trees. And they heard this. They heard the Mughals saying, we've killed all the Singhs. We've killed all the Sikhs. There isn't any Sikhi left in this world. And that infuriated them. It made them very angry. And what they turn around and do is these two Singhs, Bota Singh and Garja Singh, they decide, right, these lot are saying we're dead. These lot are saying we're gone, we're finished, there's no Sikhi left. What they decide to do is make a statement. So at that time in India, there was a highway from Delhi to Lahore. So Delhi, as we still see, is the capital of India, and it's the main city of India. That is where everything, economic, political, social, it's all developed in Delhi. Now, Lahore was the capital of Punjab. Within the Khalsa Raj, there were two capitals of Punjab. You had the religious capital, the spiritual capital being Amritsar, and then you had the political capital, which was Lahore. And that political capital was the same during the Mughal Raj and during most empires before that. Lahore was the capital of Punjab. So there was a highway that went from Delhi to Lahore, and they decided, right, we're going to make a pit stop on this highway. We're going to block off this highway, and anyone who wants to travel through this highway, whether they're a Mughal, whether they're a tradesman, whether they're a taxman, they have to go through this and they have to pay us tax. These lot are saying, we're finished, so we're going to take their money, we're going to take their resources, we're going to take everything they have. So Bota Singh and Garja Singh, they go to this highway, and there's a Gurdwara there, there's still a Shahidi Ganj there. It's in Pakistan today. And so it marks the exact spot where this happened. So like I was saying earlier, we have the actual artifacts. We have the actual places where all these things happened. We can go and visit them. Bota Singh and Garja Singh, they make a stop, and they put out 2 planks of wood. They put up a Nishan Sahib. And all these Singhs they don't have anything. Like I said, the Singhs were being hunted down by mercenaries. All they had on them is they were wearing a kashera, a kamar kasa, which is a small a cloth belt. And they had their kirpana. One Singh had a kirpan, and one Singh had a stick. And they had a damalla on their head. They had a dastar on their head. Something that looks like a bit like Harjab Singh's there. That's all they had with them. And these 2 Singhs, they put up an Nishan Sahib and they put a stop to this entire railway. And every single person that comes through this railway has to pay them a tax. Now, we'll read through the letter here. So what Bota Singh says, he sends, the Mughals come and they're traveling through this railway and they see these 2 Singhs. What the hell is going on? How are 2 Singhs taken over a railway? And they go to them, they're like, Zakaria Khan knows, like he's heard about what's going on, and he's like infuriated. You need to stop this, you need to get rid of this, go, we're going to kill you. And Bota Singh turns around, he's like, I ain't scared. He goes, tell Zakaria Khan, they used to call him Kanu. They go tell Kanu, this is what I'm saying. And Zakaria Khan was the emperor of Lahore at that time, he was a ruler of Lahore. And Bota Singh sends that messenger a letter back to Zakaria Khan. What he says is, Main Singh Bota. I am Bota Singh, haath vich sota mota. I've got a fat stick in my hand. Lavan jagat khalota. So I'm standing on the side of the road. Main khalota hai. I'm standing on the side of the road. Ana gadda, paisa khota. Every cart that comes through, I charge an anna, which is basically a form of currency at that time, and paisa khota. So per donkey that travels through, I charge a paisa. I charge this amount of money. And he goes to Zakaria Khan, he goes, Tethon Raj nahi hota. You don't know how to do Raj. Like we're going back before, the Halimi Raj, the Raja Banda Singh, the Raja Baba Binod Singh, where they're working for the betterment of people. They're working for the betterment of everyone there. Sarbata Pala. What Zakaria Khan's doing is he's extracting money from people. He's killing people just because they're not becoming part of his faith. There's no freedom of faith. There's no freedom of expression. There's no freedom of speech. There's absolutely no freedom under Zakaria Khan. And so what Bota Singh says to Zakaria, he goes, Tethon Raj nahi hota. Imagine speaking to Keir Starmer right now and telling you don't know how to be the Prime Minister. You don't know what you're doing. Bota Singh says this to Zakaria Khan. Bearing in mind, all he's got in his hand is a stick. That's all he has to defend himself. He doesn't have anything else. And he says to Zakaria Khan, Tu javega dargah rota. When you die, you're going to go to be judged, and you're going to be crying when you're judged. When you go to the dargah, when you go before the person who's going to judge you, you're going to be crying. Saying this to the emperor of Lahore. And then the audacity, right? Sometimes we think the Singhs back then were completely serious. They had jokes as well. They used to mess around as well. He goes to Zakaria Khan, and he's talking about Zakaria Khan's wife. He goes, Tu akhi pabbi khanonu. So he calls Zakaria Khan his pabbi. He goes, Pabbi nu das de ke main ha Singh Bota. Tera devar hai Singh Bota. I'm waiting for her. So he's messing around with Zakaria Khan. He goes, tell your wife I'm waiting for her. Tell her to come get me. And as funny as these lines are from Baba Bota Singh, they actually, not the last line, so not when he's saying Pabbi, but the rest of that letter, it completely resonates with Guru Amar Das Ji's Bani. Now, if we look at the Puratan Guru Sikhs, everything they did, their entire life was based around Gurbani. The way they talk, the way they speak, the way they used to move, the way they used to act. Everything they did, they based it around Gurbani. What Baba Bota Singh is representing there is Nanak hor paatsahiyan kudiyan namrate paatsah. They didn't care at all about who was in charge. They said, your rule is kudi. It's good, it's dust. Tethon Raj nahi hota, you don't know how to do Raj. As Guru Amar Das Ji saying, hor paatsahiyan kudiyan. Every other form of Patshahi, what Patshahi means is being in power, having an empire. So a Padshah is an emperor. And Guru Amar Das Ji is telling us, hor paatsahiyan kudiyan. These are all false, they're dust. Namrate Padshah. So like we said earlier, Naam is what makes you the true sovereign. This is what Guru Amar Das Ji is telling us. That Namrate Padshah. That those who take on Naam, those who destroy their ego, they take on Naam, they realize the greatness of Akal Purkh. They take on the message of Akal Purkh and they work for the betterment of all. These are who are the true Padshah. They are the true sovereigns of this world. The Sache Padshah, as we say quite often. Now that we've gone over what is Naam, we've gone over what Padshahi is, we've gone over what true sovereignty is, what Halim Miraj is, and we know that Naam is needed within the Sikh mindset. Naam is what gives you sovereignty. But how do we get that Naam? Where does that Naam come from? How do we obtain that Naam? Amr Sanjar at Park Avenue. But how do we actually obtain Naam? What Maharaj is saying is Gur Amrit Naam Piyalya Janam Maran Ka Path. So there's 3 panktiyan hai, and what Maharaj is saying in all 3 of them is the exact same message through different times. So the first pankti that we're looking at here, Maharaj is saying Gur Amrit Naam Piyalya. So the Guru has given us the Amrit Naam. Now, we might think here, what is Amrit Naam? Amrit Naam is when the Panj Pyare in today's day and age, or when Guru Sahib at that time, would give you Amrit. And that's not just in a spiritual sense, where we're jumping loads of Naam, we're doing Kirtan, and we feel that bliss from the Kirtan. No, it's in a physical sense as well. Now, people might question, they say, right, when we say to obtain Naam, you have to take Amrit. You have to be blessed with Amrit. And they will question, they will say, right, how does that make sense? Amrit only came about with Guru Gobind Singh Ji. There was no Amrit before that. So are you telling me everyone that was a Gursikh before didn't have Naam, just because they didn't take Amrit? What Maharaj is telling, what we see through Gurbani, and what we see through actual Ittihas when we dive into it, is Amrit was always a thing. It wasn't just there with Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Amrit had been there from the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji came to this world with the message of Amrit. And how do we know this? By Gurdas Ji writes. So you look at the second pankti, they say, Charan toye rahe rasakar, Charan Amrit Sikhan pilaya. So this is talking about the way that Guru Nanak Dev Ji went about what they did. The way they went about Sikhi, the way they pushed forward Sikhi. The Gursikhs at the time from Guru Nanak Dev Ji up until Guru Gobind Singh Ji, before they became Singh Ji, they were Guru Gobind Rai Ji. The process of taking Amrit is that they'd wash Guru Sahib Ji's charan. They wash Guru Sahib Ji's feet and they drink that water. That was Amrit before. So Amrit has always been there throughout Sikh Ittihas, from Guru Nanak Dev Ji up until now. There's never been a moment where Amrit wasn't there. And even to be considered as a Gursikh at that time, to be considered a Sikh at that time. Today, nowadays, it's a bit different with the way that everything's going, the diaspora spread. And it's a bit hard to say to someone, well, I personally wouldn't say it anyway, but it's hard to say to someone, just because you're not Amritari, you're not a Sikh. But at that time, anyone who was a Sikh, who was deemed a Sikh, was Amritari. They had given themselves to the Guru. They had surrendered their mind before the Guru. Like we said earlier, Tan Mana Tan Sab Samp Guru ko, to give everything to the Guru. The mind, the body, and the wealth, and your wealth. So what Guru Sahib would do from Guru Nanak Dev Ji to Guru Gobind Rai Ji was that they'd give Charan Amrit. But what that turns into after is in Guru Gobind Singh Ji's time, when Guru Gobind Singh Ji makes the Khanda Bata. So we've all heard the story of Vaisakhi in 1699, where Guru Gobind Singh Ji calls all the Sikhs around India, all around Asia, and they call them all to Anandpur Sahib. and Maharaj is doing something great. 80,000 people turn up, spies turn up from Aurangzeb, and we actually have handwritten letters by spies of Aurangzeb, someone named Abu al-Turani. And he was a spy sent by Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor. He came there that day to the first ever Amrit Sanchar, Vaisakhi in 1699. And he wrote back to Aurangzeb about what was happening there. Now, where before the Guru's charan, the feet of the Guru were washed, and that was drunk as Amrit, Guru Gobind Singh Ji knew that after them, there wasn't going to be any physical Guru in human form. They knew that the Guruship, they were going to give that to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So what did they do? They turned the Charan Amrit, where the Guru's feet were being washed, they turned that into the Khande Batte the Amrit. So now the Amrit was made through stirring a khanda, stirring a double-edged sword in water while reading Gurbani. Now like we said earlier, Gurbani is everything. Gurbani is Guru Sahib. Bani Guru, Guru hai Bani. So that charan of the Guru, the feet of the Guru are still going into that Gurbani, are still going into that Amrit. The Bani is being read over the water while it's being stirred with a khanda. So what Guru Sahib says is, Gursimar Manai Kalaka Khande Ki Vela. The Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, takes his 10th form in the form of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And what he does is, Pivo Pahul Khandatar Hoye Janam Sohela. That he gives Amrit of the khanda. Now, that's how we obtain Naam. It's through the Khande Batte da Amrit. In today's age, we obtain Naam through Amrit. When we go to our Amrit Sanchar, when we go to take Amrit, what the Panch Pyare will do is they will give you Amrit. You will drink Amrit 5 times. It will be splashed into your eyes, splashed into your case. And then in some Amrit Sanchars, they'll put their hand on top of your head. Others, they will speak to you. And they will give you the Vaheguru Guru Mantra. They will give you Naam. They will bless you with the Daat of Naam. Like when we read in Sukhmani Sahib, Maharaj tells us that Satguru Sikh ko Naam tan de. The Satguru gives the Sikh the Naam tan. That wealth of the Naam, like we were talking about earlier, the true Prophet. The Guru gives that to us. And how does he do that today? It's through the Panch Pyare. So we went through that line of sovereignty. We went through the 10 Gurus, and then the 11th and 12th that are here today. The 11th being Guru Granth Sahib Ji, being Gurbani, and the 12th being the Guru Khalsa Panth. So in that moment, when you're sitting at your Amrit Sanchar and the Amrit is being made, there are the Panch Pyare standing around that Batta of Amrit. And those Panch Pyare represent the Guru Khalsa Panth. And they are making that Amrit and they are giving you the Amrit. Now, when the Panch Pyare, like I said earlier, when the Panch Pyare bless us with Amrit, they give us the Vaheguru Guru Mantra, they give us Naam, and they give us the uniform of the Panch Kakar. Now, subsequently, as we take Amrit, we're blessed with Naam, we're blessed with the Panch Kakar, we're given that uniform, we're admitted into the Guru Khalsa Panth. So when we take Amrit, we enter the Khalsa Panth, we're admitted into the Khalsa Panth. And this makes us a part of the 12th sovereign. So when we take Amrit, we become part of that sovereignty. We become part of that 12th line, of the 12th part of the line of sovereignty. We become part of the Guru Khalsa Panth. And then the Guru blesses us with Naam, the greatest wealth in existence. So every sovereign, any person who's a Raja, he has a great wealth. And what's the great wealth that Guru Sahib gives us? They give us Naam. Now any sovereign, any king in this world, he has a crown. What does Guru Sahib give us? They give us a Damalla. They give us a Dastar. They give us a crown. And any king, any sovereign in this world, whether that be governments, whether that be kings, whether that be monarchies, empires, they all have weapons. They are all armed. And Guru Sahib does the same thing. They turn us into a true sovereign and they give us the kirpan. They give us shastra, they give us weapons. They adorn us as royals and they give us their own form. But alongside this, along to giving us the title of true sovereignty, giving us a title of Sache Padshah, they give us a duty and a reason to life. Now, this is one of the main reasons why I thought about developing this talk series. Often when I was going around in like student circles, speaking to people on a daily basis, often I personally find that loads of people our age, whether that's students or even elders, they don't have any purpose to life. They don't have any duty to life. They don't really have a reason to life. Most university students, they'll be going out clubbing. No judgment here, but they'll be going out clubbing. They'll be going out drinking every single night, out partying. And that's all they really do. There's not really much else for them. That's the only thing that they find fun, and that's the only thing that they see worthy of their time. And they don't realize the greater level of duty that they have. Especially being born into a Sikh household. Being born into the house of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. That duty that's bestowed upon us. The purpose that we have to our life. It's much greater than just going out, clubbing, wasting our time, doing absolutely materialistic and worldly things that aren't going to have any impact on anyone else. All they're going to do is just pretty much waste our time. You have a few good memories from one of these events, but other than that, what have you actually achieved? Maharaj gives us two purposes to life. When we're blessed with Amrit, they give us two purposes. And what's the first purpose? The first purpose is a spiritual purpose. Guru Sahib Ji tells us in Rera Sahib. So if you notice, a lot of these panktiyas that I'm putting up are actually from our Nitrim. So from the Baniya that you read every single day as an Amritari Gursikh. So every single day, when you're blessed with Amrit, Guru Sahib Ji is instilling the sovereignty. They're instilling this sign of Padshahi within you, of rulership within you. And Maharaj gives us his purpose every single day in Sri Rera Sahib. They tell us, Pai Parapat Manak De Huriya. They say that this body has been given to you. Gobind Milan ki eh teri bariya. You got this chance in this world. You've been given Naam for this purpose, to connect and meet Akal Purakh while you're alive. Sikhi isn't just about believing and waiting for death, waiting to see a man in the clouds after judgment day. No. When people ask me, and I say this in the most humble way possible, they ask me, right, so you must believe in God. Then I say, no, I know God. I know Akal Purakh. I know Vaheguru. There's a difference between believing. You can only believe in something that you don't know. A lot of us might have seen that video of the Rasta. He's talking to that guy and it went quite viral. And he goes, you can only believe in something you don't know, and it's very true. As a Sikh, we're given the opportunity to know Akal Purakh, to meet Akal Purakh and to become one with him. Not just once we're dead, but while we're alive, through Naam. And there's many Gursikhs who've done this. If we look into history, if we look at the many different Gursikhs that we take as our role models, whether that be Sant Ishta Singh Ji, many of us adore Sant Janel Singh Ji, whether we go into the Nihang Singh Samprada, when we go into the Taksals, when we go into any Samprada in history, any form of Sikh teaching, you'll find great saints who got to this level where they became one with Akal Purakh. They did this, they lived this. Gobind Milan ki eh teri bariya, they met Akal Purakh while they were alive. So that's the first purpose, becoming one with Akal Purakh and meeting Vaheguru while we're alive. But they give us a physical purpose as well. Now Guru Gobind Singh Ji, in their Bani, in Dasam Granth Sahib, they write a Bani called Bachitra Natak. Now Bachitra Natak is actually the autobiography of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Guru Gobind Singh Ji writes about their past life, and they write about the reason why they've come to this world, and they write about what they did in this world. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji gives their reason for coming to this world, and they give us a secondary purpose. A purpose as a part of the Khalsa Panth. What is the purpose of the Khalsa Panth in this world? Guru Sahib tells us, Yahi kaj tara hum janamang. That this is the reason why I have taken birth. This is the reason why I have taken janam. Samajh leho sadhu sab manamang. That all the sadhus, all the saints, all the people that are seeking the truth around the world understand this. Samajh lo. Understand this. Taram chalavan sant ubaran. I have come to this world, and my Khalsa has come to this world to spread righteousness, to spread justice, sant ubaran, to save the saints, to save the innocent people, to save those who have fear, who have love, save those who are just going about their lives, just normal people who are being harassed by those who are in power. Maharaj saying, Taram chalavan. So I've come here to spread righteousness. I've come here to save the saints. And they say, Dost saban ko mool uparan. I've come here to destroy evil. I have come here to destroy all the tyrants. And we see this. We see this throughout Guru Gobind Singh Ji's life. We see this throughout the history of the Khalsa Panth. The Khalsa always upheld these two things. If we look into the Nihang Singh Samprada, we see Buddha Dal and Tarna Dal. Now, Buddha Dal, when it was formed, its job was to do prachar of Sikhi, to spread the message of Sikhi. And Tarna Dal was supposed to go out and fight, protect people, to protect the innocents and protect the Khalsa. And it completely goes back into this pankti. Taram chalavan sant ubaran dus saban ko mool uparan. The Khalsa is living up to this, where they're destroying evil and they're spreading righteousness, they're spreading justice and upholding justice. So these are the two purposes that we have. Maharaj has given us sovereignty, they've given us Padshahi for this reason. To meet Akal Purakh, to become one with the true Padshah, the King of all kings, and to protect this world and to spread righteousness, to spread justice. Now, like we said, Maharaj has given us Padshahi, but what's the purpose of Padshahi? What is the reason? Now, there's a nara we hear very often. Can anyone tell me the three nari that we hear most often? Not Khalistan Zindabad, because that's a new one, but the Puratan ones. Anyone want to do it? Take your mic. The three main nari that we hear at Gurdwara after any Jakara. Karam Gone, you know them. Come on, man. No? Okay. So we hear Panth ki jeet. We hear Raj Karega Khalsa. And the third one being our ultimate purpose. The purpose of the Khalsa, Deg Teg Fateh. So like we see here, there's a cauldron. That's a deg. Right? What's being made in the cauldron is food. And on the right hand side, there's a teg, there's a sword. That is actually the sword of Guru Hargobind Sahib. So the sixth Guru, our sixth Guru, Guru Hargobind Sahib, that is the sword that they actually used in Jang. They used this in battle. So if we read in Sikh history, there was a battle between Guru Sahib and a man named Pandey Khan. And this is the actual talwar Guru Sahib used to kill him. So going back into that thing of artifacts, we have all of this. These two things represent the purpose of Padshahi. That Padshahi that we've been given. The Taram Chalav and Sant Ubaran. These are the two things. Deg meaning food for everyone, and Teg meaning protection and freedom for everyone. These are what make up the purpose of our Padshahi. The Halimi Raj, the Khalsa Raj, the true sovereignty. Now, we've been given this promise of sovereignty, we've been given Padshahi, but it then goes back, how do we as students live up to this? How do we keep up and work towards this promise of Padshahi, this Padshahi Dava, this promise of Padshahi, this promise of sovereignty that we've been given? And like I said, this talk is not just me telling everyone else to do this, but it's for me myself. It's for me to act upon this myself. And what Guru Sahib said, well, the three things that I can take from what Guru Sahib is teaching us, is there's three ways we can do this. Now the first thing we have to all do collectively together is become the examples that we're talking about. So we talk about all these Gursikhs in the past, we talk about Gurbani, we talk about Gur Itihas, but we need to actually start living that. We need to start living these examples, living Gurbani, earning Gurbani in our daily lives. Everything we see. So let's say, for example, we're talking to the average person and they will say to us, let's say you ask them, how's your Sikhi going? And they'll say, yeah, I'm on my journey, I'm getting there. But the interesting thing is that they use the word journey. Everyone always uses the word journey specifically. But what is a journey? You look at a journey fundamentally, it's going on a route and trying to get to a certain destination. But to be on a journey, you have to be constantly moving. You have to be moving towards the destination. Now, oftentimes we'll say to ourselves, yeah, I'm on the journey, I'm trying to work towards it, but are there steps actually being taken? You can only be on a journey if you're actually taking steps forward. Otherwise, there is no journey there, you're just stagnant. And what is a Khalsa? The Khalsa is a Panth. It's a path. The Sikh Panth, the Khalsa Panth. The word Panth actually means path. It's walking upon this path to reach that destination, to go along that journey. So we need to actually actively start taking steps, doing things. And that links to the second point, becoming active panthically. Stop being lazy, and that's for all of us, me included, for us to stop being lazy and become active. Start actually doing things, putting things into practice. And one of the easiest ways we can do that is using our academia for the prachar and prasar of the Panth. So, for us to work for a greater purpose than just, right, we're at uni, we want to get a good job. I'm studying law, I want to become a barrister. That's going to allow me to get a good wage and I can get a nice car, I can get a nice house. I want to get a nice apartment somewhere in London. That will allow me to do that, hopefully. But that's a very minute purpose, it's a very material purpose. What can we do with our academia that's a step beyond that? And that's using our academia for the prachar and prasar of the Panth. So whether that be using your dissertations, whether that be using your essays, and putting that into a context of Sikhi. So let's say you had an essay talking about the for example, let's say in politics. When I studied politics at A level, we talk about the incompetency of politicians. You could talk about it from this perspective. You use a Sikh perspective, you use the perspective of Halim Miraj. Obviously, still following the guidelines of your curriculum and so on, but using a Sikh perspective, using a perspective of Gurbani to spread the message of Sikhi in an academic lens. Using your Sikh societies, using your time at university to work in Sikh societies, to go forward and to actually be there helping other people, spreading the message of Sikhi. Not just caring about yourself all the time, not just going out all the time, but actually putting time. There's nothing wrong with going out, there's nothing wrong with having fun at all. And I want to make this clear, there's nothing wrong with making money at all. Right? Our goal as Guru Sahib, we should make as much money as we can. As much as we can. This Panth should not be financially dependent, it should be absolutely financially independent. And we'll go over that in the next slide as well. It says it in the next point. There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with being as rich as possible. But it's remembering that you want to use that for a greater purpose. Right? Have everything you can in the world. Have everything that you personally want. But make sure that your priority is the Khalsa, your priority is the truth, and your priority is spreading justice and spreading righteousness. Now, the reason why we want to do these things, like I was saying earlier, I'm just going to read off here. I did write this quote myself. I'm quite proud of it, actually. So our main goal, this is from a podcast that I did earlier last year. So yeah, I'm just plugging myself right now, aren't I? What's written here is our main goal should not be personal success. There is nothing wrong with personal success and development in any shape or form, but it should not be our primary objective. Our main goal should be to use our strengths and qualities for a greater purpose, being the Khalsa Panth. The end goal is not to be a part of other people's tables, but is to build our own table. The true Khalsa is and always will be sovereign and autonomous. It does not rely upon any other political or economic power. At the bottom there's a line there from Panth Prakash. And Kavi Ratan Singh Pangu, he writes, Khalsa hove khud khuda. That the Khalsa is khud khuda. Khuda is a word from the Abrahamic and the Islamic text. What that means is God. And what Kavi Ratan Singh Pangu is writing, he's saying Khalsa is khuda. The Khalsa is God. Jim khub bhi khub khudai. It is the most absolutely beautified and exemplified form of God in this world. And what does the Khalsa do? Anana manne anaki. It does not accept the word, it does not accept the way of anyone, ek bin sache Padsha, apart from the one true sovereign, being Akal Purakh, being Tan Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And for us to achieve this, for us to put this in actual practice, we have to be completely autonomous in every single way. Whether that be economically, politically, financially. Right? So we can talk about us being sovereign, but we need to work towards actually having a way to prove that. Whether that be through a homeland, whether that be through collective strength. Right? The Khalsa are growing and spreading more in numbers. Not just as numbers, but as quality. Making more Guru Sikhs around the world. Having more presence in political circles. But we don't want to be on anyone else's table. So from the way that the Khalsa has gone in the past 100 years, and from the last Sarbat Khalsa. So the Sarbat Khalsa is where the whole Khalsa comes together and makes decisions for the future of the Khalsa Panth. In the 1986 Sarbat Khalsa, the Khalsa Panth came together, made the declaration for Khalistan. Now, that is one way in which we can see Khalistan being a homeland for Sikhs. Now, that is one way in which we can see this being put into practice in a sort of political mindset, where we can see a goal and working towards that goal. And whether that's the specific goal that we want to go for, or whether we want to build, whether we want to come together and reconstruct, rethink, and think about ways to build the Khalsa forward economically, politically, socially, we need to start doing that. We need to start acting upon that. Now, one way in which some of the close Guru Sikhs around myself, and within the work that I do, within the seva that I've been blessed to do, one thing that we've started to try and work towards this, to work towards the political and economic prosperity of the Khalsa Panth, is something called Sovereign Minds. So Sovereign Minds is an academic program, and it's currently undergoing. It's only just started. We're going through the piloting program right now, and it's a leadership program project. So working towards the economic and societal prosperity of the Khalsa Panth. And what it's doing, it's going through loads of different aspects. So I can show you my book here. I'm currently part of the first cohort. Am I showing this right? Here's my book there. And it's a program that, if you look inside, so I'm just going to read it straight off the thing. So the table of contents there. And the main goals of this whole series is, so self-awareness, communication skills, CV writing, interview skills, financial literacy, friendship and conflict resolution, and entrepreneurial skills. So all things that we can use as students in the UK to help us develop in our careers, to help us develop in our personal lives, and for us to grow as Guru Sikhs, get into the highest professional roles possible, and from a professional standpoint, from an academic standpoint, do the prachar of Sikhi and spread the message of Sikhi. Because sometimes, let's say, fine, not everyone needs to be an absolutely amazing academic, right? But when someone is a great academic, we go to the next slide, and we look at Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, right there, they're at their graduation from Oxford University. The reason why Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji was so influential is because of that academic prosperity that they had. They were able to speak to people at a level where they could understand, whether they be from a different faith, whether they be a Sikh, whether they be a great academic, or whether they have to speak to someone on a personal level in a more speaking in more slang or colloquial language. Bhai Sahib was able to do all of that. And these are the sort of things we need to start working towards, all of us together. So just the three inspirations that I went over at the beginning of the talk. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, Baba Jaswant Singh Ji, Bhai Amrik Singh Ji. The three inspirations behind the developing of this whole talk series. So yeah, that's the end of the talk itself. We'll open it up to any questions now, any open conversation anyone may have. Hanji Harjab. So, Guru Ji ki Fateh.
Thanks so much for this, Seva. Good discussions to be had from this. Don't put on the spot. I appreciate you might not have an answer for this
Hanji.
straight away. But what does that look like, this Khalsa Raj, academically speaking, as
Hanji.
you mentioned on the previous slide? You don't have to give an answer if
Yeah.
it is just a discussion, I suppose. But from your perspective, what does that look like tangibly to you, sort of pursuing Khalsa Raj from an academic lens?
So from an academic lens, obviously, first thing would be looking into our itihas and having everything that we have. So, for example, let's say if we look into 84 and we look into our reference library, right? So, first thing we could do, I'm just speaking from a Sikh lens, and I am put on the spot with this question, right? So I'm just going to think about what I could say from a basic level. The first thing is looking into our reference library and building our own academic sources in terms of our history. So, oftentimes, if you look at TikTok right now, there's a big craze of people attacking Sikhi, whether that be different, no matter what religion they are from, but attacking Sikhi and attacking the sources of Sikhi, and working towards academic sources in terms of our itihas. So if we look into the Sikh reference library, everything that was lost there in 84, trying to recover that, trying to rebuild from that, and actually putting greater level academic sources for us to prove the authenticity of our granths, of our itihas. One example is people recently questioning Guru Teg Bahadur Ji Shahidi, right? And let's say if we were actually able to collate historical granths written by not only ourselves, but Mughal manuscripts, their own political writings from the time, and put that stuff together and prove the authenticity of our itihas. That's one step forward in academic lens, I would personally see. Another thing is just working towards what we would see as, well, like you asked that question, but actually coming together, using our different skill sets. So people that are, there's a lot of professionals around in the Panth. People are doctors, lawyers, scientists, whatever. Working towards a way that we can build everyone together and actually brainstorm and work towards building platforms where we can see what Khalsa Raj would look like. And maybe what that is starting off from small establishments. So often we will hear people say, we can't run a gurdwara, right? How are we going to run a country, right? So maybe we could start off in terms of actually sorting out our establishments, working towards the big establishment, for example, Singh Sabha in Southall, having student bodies there, having academic bodies there, working towards the progression of our Sikh establishments and spreading the message of Sikhi. And from there, we can learn to grow these establishments and then put that into practice in a wider political, economic scale. That's all I can think of from the top of my head right now. But like I said, there's going to... Yeah.
So just quoting from Binary Singh's daughter, Bibi Satwant Kaur, she said, she did a talk at one of the camps, Singh's camps, and she said there that, imagine if we were to get our own Sikh homeland tomorrow, right? Do we have those people in place who are going to be the next finance minister, education minister, right? It's up to us to educate ourselves to get to that level where we can run these places, right? And if we build our institutions to a level that if we do get our own Sikh homeland, then do we have those people ready to stand by and take over and take control and actually run the country, right? So I think on individual level, it's for all of us to kind of get that experience, and get that expertise, I think.
Yeah. Am I good?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Haji. So that is on a very, it's basically just a baby right now. It's in its piloting stage. So it's just the first cohort that's gone through and it's actually in testing stage right now. But with Maharaja's Kirpa, it's going very well so far. And hopefully in the future we can build this to a greater level. The whole thing about that is just, so the main quote, the main phrase of, I forgot what you call that, but from a business perspective, but the main thing behind it is turning well-educated minds into well-formed minds. So the Guru Sikh students, Sikh students, turning them from just being an academic person to being able to work in not only academic but a professional environment, environments such as schools and workplaces, all that kind of stuff, and helping us grow professionally. I'm not sure if that was the answer to the question, but yeah. So the main thing behind that is helping Sikh students get to the best roles possible, right? So getting to the highest professional roles possible, whether that be in politics, whether that be in their whatever respective industry, right? Becoming the best lawyers possible, the best dentists possible, starting your own firm, starting your own businesses, right? And having those being, when something, for example, if you look at Jews, for example, right? We use them as an example. A lot of Jews are very, very, very successful businessmen, right? If you look at Elon Musk, for example, he's a Jew, right? Many famous people that we see that are in charge of big establishments around the world and able to have a big impact on the world, they are from that particular faith. So not necessarily doing the same thing as them, but coming from the lens of Gurbani and building up Sikhs to a scale where they have, using the lens of Gurbani, using that sort of Halim Miraj and being able to spread that through their academic work and their professional work. So, for example, building businesses based on the scale of Gurbani, based on the think of Gurbani, right? Treating people fairly, all that kind of stuff mashed together. Just trying to get Sikhs into the best positions possible and spreading the message of Sikhi in a different manner, in a manner that's academic, professional, that kind of stuff, that sort of thing. Does that cover it?
That explains the ideology behind it.
Yeah.
How are you planning on actioning this? Are you planning on setting up an online platform? Are you going to go to universities to...
So I'm not actually organising the talk. I'm a student there. But it's one thing that's been started, so that's why I mentioned it is one of the ways that we're trying to put this into practice. But like I said, it's in its baby stages right now. So once the first cohort's done, then we can move to growing it further, and hopefully at some point we can get the people that actually organise this talk and get them to come down, organise organised Sovereign Minds, the leadership program, get them to come down and actually explain how they want to move this forward and bring this into student circles, because they do want to do that. Is there any other question? Yep. Anji. Yeah.
But like, if you look at the situation in Punjab right now,
Mm.
and why Amritpal Singh went there.
Just be Mike, so everyone will know.
I'll forget my question now.
By Amritpal Singh.
Hello.
Okay, it's fine, don't worry.
Hello.
It's just so everyone could hear.
It doesn't work. Oh, it works. Okay. So basically, like, if you look at Punjab right now, how sad it is. It's really corrupted.
Mm.
Everything's like anyone, like, if you think about border and stuff like that, oh my God, is bad.
Yeah.
Right? And even though if we try to, even from here, we try to go to Punjab, we try to make a difference, like how Amritpal Singh tried to, he's put behind bars. What can we do, or like, where did he go wrong? If you know what I mean, like, what happened then? Why?
So, Amritpal Singh, I'm not gonna say where he went wrong, right? Because I see Amritpal Singh as a very great Guru Sikh, someone who's much better than me. He's actually gone there, given up his entire life. He's given up all his freedom for the work of Punjab, for the work of Sikhi. But I get the question. Look, there's different ways of going about things, right? And the easiest way that we can do this, which is what I'm trying to go over right now, is from an academic lens, right? So using our academia, using the freedom that we have here, the so-called freedom that we have, and just doing as much work for Punjab as we can from here. It's because, like I said, I'm on the scale of this journey as well, right? I'm on this journey with everyone else here. So the whole issue of Punjab is a very deep issue. It is something that we're all going to have to come together and figure out together, right? It's not something that can be just solved by a single student on his own, Hanji.
Just going back to Benji's question.
Yeah.
In terms of biomedical, I think the problem lies in taking it too far. Essentially, he was doing something really great, and in terms of stopping the nashe in Punjab and bringing the youth together and doing Amrit and Prachar, it was amazing. But then I think with the people he was surrounded by, the influence was on. He did something that gave the people in power a reason to pick him off, and that's where the problem lies. Because you know they're in power, so I'm not going to use this.
Yeah.
You know they're in power, and you have to play their game as sad as it is. You have to be able to understand that you're still on their field until you're the one in control. And he took a step which gave them a reason, and the reason I'm saying this is because one day somebody in this room or somebody outside this room might decide to do something similar to what he did in terms of going to Punjab, do something for the youth, which is, I think, something all of us should want to do. But it's about knowing how to play your game properly. He was doing something, he was really smart, but then he did something. I hope.
The thing is, that's a very awkward situation because we can tell him to play his game properly, but at the same time, look, from my personal perspective, he's done a lot more than any of us could have. But honestly, that's a very awkward situation in itself, because no matter whether he did it in his way or whether anyone does it in any other way. Let's say you go just once in Khalsa, right? Khalsa, all he did was work from a very academic lens. Yeah, all he did was pick out. All he did was just from the other perspective. All he did was pick out actual statistics, and he was picked up for picking up statistics. He wasn't even doing anything physically. He wasn't a Kardical himself. He wasn't fighting in the Sangharsh. You could say Amritpal was pushing on the Sangharsh. Just once in Khalsa wasn't, innit? No, but just in general, like that's that step of taking it too far, innit?
That's not what was about. He attacked the police station and he gave them a reason to get picked up.
Okay, I'm not going to go too much into that, but
how just once in Khalsa was
yeah.
picked off, that was in a time where digital social media wasn't.
Can I ask you a question then?
But by Amritpal Singh's time, it was a thing. It was a lot harder for them to catch him. They had to give a reason. They had to show face, and he gave them a reason.
You genuinely think that like the governments actually have to give a reason for something, to do something?
I'm saying that he gave them.
I personally completely disagree with that.
I disagree with that, bro, because if they want to get you, they're going to get any reason to get you.
And
For example, here in the UK, at Sikh Youth UK, Deepa and his sister, they got them on a technicality, on a legal loophole, and I'm sure you've seen the whole documentary, right? If they want to get you, they're going to get you. So
and if you're going to talk about social media, Palestine's all over social media, Congo's all over social media. What are you seeing the world doing about that? Right? Social media doesn't really have an effect. No, but it's on a greater scale. But that's where Punjab's heading to.
That's not something that average civilians can have control over.
But it's where Punjab's heading to, right? Is it not? That's an open discussion, isn't it? That's an entirely different topic in itself. Here you go.
I'm just going to add on to what Brother was saying. I think the perspective that should be put in place is that if you have feel inside you to go out there and take action,
Mm-hmm.
then be very careful with what you're doing because you don't want to give them a reason to pick you up. And I think that's
Which is basically why we're, no, I'm not saying you were, but that's why what we're doing here is more working from an academic lens, where we can spread without actually having to do anything physically, right? We can work towards the prosperity of the Panth without doing anything physically. Or I'm saying, look, I'm not going to talk about him his at all. I'm not saying you were. But it's just different ways of going about things, and the way we can go about it living here and as students is working from an academic perspective. That's all I can say, really, innit? Hanji.
No, I appreciate the discussion as well. That's definitely a discussion to be had. And I appreciate it's a nuanced discussion. There's both sides to it.
Yeah.
What I'd say is that it's pull and hard, sabko, pull the guru kurtar. There's always mistakes that we make as a Panth, as individuals. And it's, I think the point is pick Sikhi up from what's happened and try not to succumb to the same errors of our judgment.
100%. Yeah. Any other questions? Yep.
Another thing is like just linking to, since we were on the topic of dancing, one thing about them before they got into their cinema was they were a really good writer. If you look back on their like Facebook posts on, even before when they were in Monday, before they took Amrit, before they got into Sikhi, they would always write really, really well. And that's something, like a skill that they used, and they took Amrit and they used that skill for the Panth. So it links back to what you said about how don't just do something for your own individual self, do something, bring a skill that you can use directly and help.
Because, Bhai Jagraj Singh used to say this very often as well. Like any skill set that we have, we can channel that into a Panthic seva. Any skill set that we have, right? Whether someone's a good artist, whether someone's financially savvy, economically savvy, you can use that to help people, right? You can use that to spread that knowledge. Man Singh, so if anyone's seen Man Singh from the Sikh History podcast, he says something amazing, and I quote this almost every time I ever do katha, and it's each one teach one. So anything you teach one more person, and that's a Panth prospering, right? Because you've learned something that's going to benefit you. You spread that onto one more person, that's going to benefit them, and overall what that's doing is benefiting the Panth. But yeah, it's a very good point. I agree with it completely. It's what we're talking about anyway. Hanji?
So given that we're all at uni, is there, don't put you on the spot again, I appreciate that. You don't have to answer.
Your questions are too hard to answer sometimes, right?
But given that we're at uni and we're at Sikh society, we're in academic spaces, what are some things that we can sort of pool our resources into at this level? As you said, before we have Khalsa Raj, we have to make sure that we take care of our existing institutions correctly, right? Start with a Gurdwara. In this case, if we're at uni, start with a Sikh society.
Yeah.
Or the professional, start with a Sikh network. What is an actionable project that we could pool our resources into to pursue this sort of healing mirage, right?
I think Gurpratap Singh is going to give you an answer.
So, again, that is a very key topic in terms of actionable change. I think what we've spoken about today is that mindset, of not judging others or not coming across with other people. We introspect and focus on ourselves first. That's a really key question about what we can do in these spaces that will be covered in the future weeks. In our last week, we have
So it's a mock Sarbat Khalsa that's happening the 5th week.
Which will be going over these kind of questions, these kind of topics, debating from both sides what can be done, what can we put in place, and how can we do it. So it's not just good ideas or grand ideas, but how are we actually going to action change from then on. And we're hoping this lecture series can inform your decisions, can help you gain a wider perspective, and also see things in a new light. So hopefully today you're taking something away. From next week we'll be looking at Khalsa Raj from previous time, Maharaj Ranjit Singh's time. Again, we have specialists in each topic coming in from this week on. So we're looking at Maharaja Ranjit Singh's time, looking at now the current state of Punjab, and also the solution, hopefully, what we can work towards as well. And then ultimately culminating in that Moksha Khalsa. So hopefully we can tackle the challenging questions that you put in.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Just to add one thing, next week's talk, the speaker, Ranveer Singh, he's flying in from Scotland. So he has to leave by 7:30 to catch his flight back in time. So if everyone can come, that's why next week's is a little bit earlier starting. If everyone can get here about 5:30, and then hopefully we'll have enough time to do like the talk and discussion. He's a really good speaker. He's written a whole book on this, Bachai Memo on Sikh sovereignty. So he's a really good resource to tap into.
And just tapping onto that, so this, for example, this talk series, like not blowing my own trumpet or anything, but this is something that we as students developed ourselves, right? Just to try and spread this message of Sikh sovereignty. Now, if look, I try my best to get this going, and Maharaja's Kirpa, it's actually working, right? It's actually, we've started now, and it's going to carry on for the next few weeks. But anyone who does actually have any ideas, no matter whether you think you can implement them or not, and whether you know a lot about Sikhi or not, to actually speak openly about your ideas, right? Go to your Sikh societies, be actively involved. That's the first step of actually being involved. Just get involved, do whatever you can, go to the events. If you see for example, Base of Sikhi, if you've got like a program AU, if you've got a Sikh society program, just the first step for any of us at this stage is get involved. Be actively involved, and we can push our ideas forward. Because for example, you'll have so many Sikhs in London, for example, who have ideas or they want to do something, or maybe they don't even realize they have ideas yet. They haven't even gone to an event. So if we're ourselves just trying to spread our events, spread our Sikh societies, get more people in, and we'll slowly get more ideas filtering through, right? We'll slowly get more people thinking, we'll get more people doing stuff, actually putting things into action, putting things into motion. Yeah.
And you know what, also long term, I know like it might feel like, oh, we talk about all this stuff, but do we actually have anything tangible to achieve anything? But if you study all of the successful political, social movements, they come down to 6 factors. So this is what someone did a study on this at UM, and they found that, like I've got the list in front of me. One was media, propaganda, so you have your own propaganda wing. One is think tanks. So if you've heard of Rusi.org or Chatham House in UK, they've got these think tanks. Even in America, the way Trump won is they spent $25 million on a think tank, Project 2025. So look that up as how he's going to implement his changes in the first 60 days of government. So they thought about this, they invested $25 million. As a Panth, we've not invested £1 in a think tank, have we, into the Panth. And then the next one is like lobbying. So the Jews are really good at this, they lobby the government to get their stuff done. They don't even need to have Jewish people in government. They lobby the Guru to get stuff done for them. So that's something we're behind on. Grassroots movement. So this is what we're doing now. This is a grassroots movement. Benevolent Singh Shahid, he was president of the All India Sikh Students Federation. He didn't necessarily do anything in error. He was just seen as a threat to the Indian government because of how big every single university in India, you can imagine, he had Sikh students. He had not even non-Sikhs who were attending these talks and stuff. So that's a grassroots movement. Then the last two is funding. So like if you see in Sri Lanka and Tamil Nadu and these places, they had their own movements. The way they actually funded them is the community got together, and in UK they used to fund petrol stations. So that's why when you go to all these petrol stations, you'll see like a Tamil South Indian person working there. The community's funded that person, and then that person sends money back to their movement in wherever they're fighting. Right, so like the Tamil Tigers and these kind of groups. As a Panth, we haven't really done that, built a self-sustaining income for our movements, have we? So that's another thing. And then the last thing is what Divjot was talking about, is developing leaders. We need leadership programs. So that is amazing. And once you have, this is what the UN study found, when you have all 6 of these wings of this movement going together, that's how you get success. So that's something we can think long term. You're all part of this change now today, and it's going to work towards that long term. So whatever your area of expertise in, you can go into one of those areas and be like, I'm going to smash this up with the Panth.
Yeah, 100%. Anyone else? No? Okay, wrap it up there then. Yeah. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Again, like what you were saying,
that's good, bro. Was it okay?
Yeah, no, believe me. You can watch it back in it.
First time I'm doing it, innit? So it's going to take a bit of time.